On a chilly autumn evening in Los Angeles, a man walked into the lobby of an upscale boutique hotel, his black blazer and jeans blending him seamlessly into the crowd of travelers. His demeanor was calm, almost understated, as if he had come to find solace rather than luxury. To everyone else, he appeared to be just another guest, but little did they know, he was the silent force behind the very walls they stood within. Keanu Reeves, the secret owner of the hotel. As he approached the front desk, a sharp voice cut through the lobby's tranquil atmosphere. "Excuse me, sir," snapped Amanda, the receptionist, her tone laced with impatience. "Do you have a reservation? We're quite exclusive here." Without missing a beat, Keanu reached into his pocket to retrieve his confirmation email. "I do," he said quietly, his voice steady yet unassuming. Amanda barely glanced at the screen before rolling her eyes. "People think they can just walk in without understanding what kind of place this is," she muttered, loud enough for a few guests nearby to hear. Her dismissive tone sent ripples of unease across the room. A couple seated by the fireplace, Emily and David, exchanged curious glances. High school sweethearts celebrating their anniversary. They couldn't help but notice the tension unfolding. Emily leaned closer to David and whispered, "Doesn't he look familiar? Like Keanu Reeves?" David squinted, skepticism clouding his face. "No way. Why would he be here?" Meanwhile, Amanda continued, oblivious to the shifting mood around her. "This isn't some budget hotel," she scoffed. "We cater to CEOs, celebrities, people who can actually afford it. There's a motel down the street if you're lost." Her words, dripping with disdain, echoed through the lobby. Keanu's gaze remained steady, his calm demeanor unwavering despite the sting of her words. "Is this how you greet all your guests?" he asked, his tone gentle yet firm. Amanda crossed her arms. "Only the ones who clearly don't belong," she retorted. Before she could reach for the phone to call security, a familiar voice interrupted her. "Amanda!" James, the hotel manager, stepped into view, his face paling as he spotted Keanu. Panic flickered in his eyes. What are you doing?" Amanda turned, confusion etched on her face. "I'm handling a situation," she said, waving dismissively toward Keanu. But James wasn't looking at her anymore. His gaze was locked on Keanu. "That's not just a guest," he said, his voice trembling. "That's Mr. Reeves. He owns this hotel." Silence swept across the room like a sudden gust of wind. Amanda's expression froze, her confidence shattering as reality sank in. The guests, now riveted by the unfolding scene, watched in awe. Keanu stood quietly, the weight of his presence shifting the atmosphere. Emily and David exchanged astonished glances. Their anniversary suddenly transformed into a story they would never forget. Amanda stammered, her voice faltering. "Mr. Reeves, I had no idea. Please, I'm so sorry." Keanu's calm gaze never wavered. "Kindness isn't optional," he said softly. "It's the foundation of everything we do here. Everyone deserves respect, regardless of how they appear." His words hung in the air, resonating deeply with everyone present. The power of kindness, delivered without anger, left an indelible mark on hearts and minds alike. Silence hung heavy in the air, each second stretching endlessly as Amanda stood frozen, her mind racing. The realization of her mistake weighed on her like an anchor, pulling her confidence down to the depths of shame. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her apology caught in her throat. Across the lobby, guests watched in stunned silence, their curiosity piqued by the unexpected revelation. Keanu remained calm, his gaze soft yet unwavering. The weight of his words lingered, leaving Amanda visibly shaken. Slowly, she managed to whisper, "Mr. Reeves, I didn't know. I'm truly sorry." Her voice trembled, each word soaked in regret. But Keanu wasn't quick to accept her apology. Instead, he let the moment breathe, allowing everyone to reflect on what had just transpired. "Sorry doesn't erase how you treated me," Keanu finally said, his tone measured but firm. "What matters more is how you choose to move forward. Actions speak louder than words." His gaze softened as he added, "The world needs more kindness, Amanda. It starts with recognizing the humanity in everyone, not just the ones you deem worthy." Amanda's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she nodded, the weight of his words sinking deep into her soul. Across the room, Emily and David exchanged a glance, their hearts aching at the quiet strength in Keanu's voice. They had read stories about his generosity, but seeing it in person, witnessing his unwavering grace, was something else entirely. A soft murmur rippled through the lobby as guests began whispering among themselves. The tension that had hung in the air started to dissipate, replaced by a palpable sense of reverence. It wasn't just the revelation of Keanu's identity that captivated them. It was his quiet insistence on kindness, his refusal to respond with anger or resentment. James, the hotel manager, stepped forward cautiously. His expression was a mixture of guilt and determination. "Mr. Reeves," he began, his voice steady but filled with remorse, "I take full responsibility for what happened tonight. This isn't who we are, and it's not the image we want to project." He glanced at Amanda before continuing. "Changes will be made. I promise you that." Keanu gave him a small nod, his demeanor remaining calm. "Good," he said simply, "because it's not about perfection. It's about being better than we were yesterday." His gaze shifted back to Amanda. "We all make mistakes. It's how we learn from them that matters." Amanda swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she clasped them in front of her. "I will do better," she vowed quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I promise." Before anyone could say more, the quiet sound of a piano drifted through the lobby, breaking the tension with its gentle melody. Heads turned toward the corner where an older man, his white hair gleaming under the soft lights, sat at the grand piano. His fingers moved gracefully across the keys, playing a hauntingly beautiful rendition of Clair de Lune. Keanu's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition lighting his eyes. He walked toward the piano, the soft music wrapping around him like a comforting embrace. As the final note lingered in the air, Keanu approached the man with a warm smile. "That was incredible," he said softly. "How long have you been playing?" The man chuckled, his laughter gentle and sincere. "Longer than I've been fixing pipes, that's for sure," he replied, pointing to his maintenance name tag. "My wife used to love this piece. I played it for her every night before she passed." Keanu's gaze softened even more, the pain and empathy in his eyes unmistakable. "She must have been lucky to have someone who loved her like that," he said quietly. The man's smile grew faint, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I was the lucky one," he whispered. And for a brief moment the room fell into a contemplative silence, each person absorbing the profound beauty of that simple exchange, a reminder of love, loss, and the enduring power of human connection. The soft notes of the piano faded, leaving a lingering echo in the hearts of everyone in the lobby. Keanu stood quietly by the old man, absorbing the depth of emotion in his story. For a moment it felt as if time had slowed, the world outside forgotten in the warmth of human connection. Inside, Amanda, still standing behind the front desk, watched the interaction unfold. Her mind replayed Keanu's words over and over: kindness, respect, actions. She felt a tightening in her chest, a mixture of guilt and longing. She had spent so much of her life trying to climb social ladders, obsessed with appearances and status. And here was a man who had every reason to boast of his success, standing humbly before a maintenance worker, listening with genuine interest and empathy. As Keanu turned back toward the lobby, he noticed a young boy watching him from across the room. The boy, no older than 8, clutched his mother's hand tightly, his wide eyes filled with awe. Keanu offered a gentle smile and gave a small nod of acknowledgement, which seemed to embolden the boy. Slowly he let go of his mother's hand and approached Keanu, his tiny steps hesitant but determined. "Mr. Reeves?" The boy's voice was soft, almost trembling. Keanu knelt to the boy's level, his gaze kind and patient. "Yes, buddy?" The boy reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. "My dad. He used to watch your movies with me before he went to heaven," the boy said, his voice cracking with emotion. "He always said you were the nicest person in Hollywood. I think he was right." Keanu's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as he carefully unfolded the paper. It was a simple drawing of a superhero. The words, "To Mr. Reeves, the real superhero," scrawled across the top in shaky handwriting. The lobby fell silent again, but this time it was out of awe and respect. Keanu placed a hand gently on the boy's shoulder. "Your dad must have been an amazing person," he said softly. "Thank you for sharing this with me. It means more than you know." The boy's mother wiped tears from her eyes as she watched the heartfelt exchange. She mouthed a silent thank you to Keanu, her gratitude evident in her expression. Emily and David, still sitting by the fireplace, watched with glistening eyes. "It's incredible," Emily whispered to David. "He carries so much pain, yet he chooses kindness every time." David nodded, his own emotions bubbling to the surface. "That's what makes him a real hero," he murmured. Amanda, standing off to the side, felt something shift within her. It wasn't just guilt anymore. It was a deep, aching need to change. She realized that her actions, her words, her demeanor, all left ripples in the lives of those around her. And tonight, she had seen firsthand the power of compassion and humility. Keanu stood slowly, still holding the boy's drawing in his hand. He glanced around the room, meeting the eyes of those who had witnessed the moment. "Everyone has a story," he said quietly, his voice carrying a gentle strength. "We never know what someone else is going through. That's why kindness matters. It's the simplest way to show we care." James stepped forward, his voice steady but emotional. "You reminded us all tonight, Mr. Reeves. Thank you. We won't forget it." Keanu gave a small nod. "Let's make sure we don't just remember it. Let's live it." As he spoke, he gently placed the boy's drawing back into his hands. "Heroes come in all shapes and sizes," he said softly. "Thank you for being mine tonight." The morning sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of the hotel lobby, casting a warm, golden glow on the polished floors. The atmosphere, once tense and cold, now felt lighter, as if the weight of the previous night's events had been lifted. Amanda stood at the front desk, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the guest log. Her mind was still replaying Keanu's words, the quiet power behind them, the way they lingered long after he had spoken. Across the room, Emily and David sat by the fireplace, sipping their morning coffee. They had spent the night talking about everything they had witnessed, unable to shake the impact of Keanu's quiet grace. "It's not every day you see someone like that," David said softly, his gaze distant. "Someone who doesn't just talk about kindness, but lives it." Emily nodded, a wistful smile on her lips. "And he does it without expecting anything in return. That's what makes it so genuine." Her eyes drifted toward the front desk, where Amanda now stood lost in thought. "I wonder if she'll change." At that moment, the soft chime of the elevator echoed through the lobby, drawing everyone's attention. Keanu stepped out, his presence as unassuming as ever. He wore the same black blazer from the night before, but something about him seemed different. A quiet resolve in his expression, a gentleness in the way he carried himself. He glanced around the lobby, his eyes landing briefly on Amanda, who looked down nervously. "Good morning, Mr. Reeves," James greeted him with a respectful nod. The hotel manager's tone was sincere, no longer laced with the formality of duty, but with genuine admiration. "I trust you had a restful night." Keanu offered a faint smile. "As restful as one can have," he replied softly. His gaze flickered toward Amanda, who was now fidgeting with a pen. He took a step closer to the desk, his movements calm and deliberate. Amanda's heart pounded in her chest. She had spent hours rehearsing what she would say, but now, standing face to face with the man she had, misjudged, words failed her. Her voice trembled as she finally spoke. "Mr. Reeves, I wanted to apologize again for how I treated you. I'm ashamed of my behavior." Keanu studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, with a quiet sigh, he said, "We all have moments we're not proud of. What matters is what we do after." His voice was steady, each word carrying weight. "Kindness isn't a performance. It's how we treat people when no one's watching." Amanda felt tears sting her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I've been reflecting on that all night," she confessed. "I don't want to be that person anymore." Keanu nodded slowly. "Then don't be." His words were simple, yet profound. Change starts with a choice. As the conversation unfolded, a quiet moment of understanding passed between them. The lobby, once filled with whispers and judgment, now felt like a place of renewal and hope. Across the room, Emily and David watched, their hearts swelling with admiration. Just then the young boy from the night before appeared again, holding his mother's hand. His eyes lit up when he saw Keanu. "Mr. Reeves!" he called out excitedly, running over with a shy grin. Keanu crouched down to meet him. "Hey there, buddy! How are you?" The boy beamed, holding up the drawing he had given Keanu the night before. "I told my mom you were a real superhero," he said proudly. Keanu chuckled softly, the sound filled with warmth. "And you know what? You remind me that heroes come in all shapes and sizes." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small keychain, a keepsake from one of his movie sets. "Here, I want you to have this." The boy's eyes widened in awe as he accepted the gift. "Really, thank you, Mr. Reeves." As the boy ran back to his mother, Keanu stood, watching them leave with a thoughtful expression. The world outside the hotel doors seemed brighter, filled with possibilities. Amanda, watching from the desk, felt a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time in a long while, she believed in the power of change, not just in herself, but in the world around her. As the morning unfolded, the guests continued with their day, but the quiet ripple of kindness lingered. Every interaction felt a little softer. Every exchange carried a trace of warmth. Amanda stood at the front desk, her heart still holding the weight of Keanu's note. She touched her pocket where it rested, a reminder of the change she was determined to embrace. In the corner of the lobby, Emily and David shared a peaceful moment by the fireplace. Their hands intertwined, they spoke in hushed tones, reflecting on everything they had witnessed. "I never expected an anniversary getaway to be so life-changing," Emily murmured. David nodded, squeezing her hand. "It's amazing how one person's kindness can spark something so powerful." The soft chime of the front door's opening drew their attention. A new guest entered, an older woman with a gentle smile and a weary look in her eyes. She clutched a worn leather suitcase, her posture hinting at both exhaustion and resilience. Amanda, noticing the woman's arrival, straightened her posture and greeted her with a genuine smile. "Welcome to our hotel. How can I help you today?" The woman's smile brightened slightly at Amanda's warmth. "I have a reservation," she said softly. As Amanda checked the booking, she noticed a subtle nervousness in the woman's demeanor. "It's my first trip in a long time," the woman added, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "I wasn't sure I'd be welcome in a place like this." Amanda paused, her eyes meeting the woman's. "You are always welcome here," she said gently. "This is a place where everyone belongs." The sincerity in Amanda's voice made the woman's shoulders relax, and a small tear glistened in the corner of her eye. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Emily watched the exchange from across the room, her chest tightening with emotion. "She's really changing," she whispered to David. "Amanda is becoming the person she wants to be." Meanwhile, James walked over to Keanu, who stood quietly near the window, watching the city outside. "It's incredible," James said softly. "I can see the impact you've had on everyone here, even Amanda." Keanu turned to James, his expression thoughtful. "It's not me," he said quietly. "People have that kindness within them. Sometimes they just need a reminder." He glanced toward Amanda, who was now helping the elderly woman with her luggage. "It's about creating spaces where people feel seen. That's when they truly show who they are." James nodded, his admiration evident. "You make it sound so simple." Keanu smiled faintly. "Simple doesn't mean easy. It's a choice we make every day, and sometimes the hardest part is choosing it when no one else does." As they stood in reflective silence, the young boy from the previous day appeared once more, holding his mother's hand. His eyes lit up when he saw Keanu, and he waved eagerly. "Mr. Reeves!" Keanu crouched down with a warm smile. "Hey, buddy, how's my little superhero doing today?" The boy giggled, his joy contagious. "I told my friends about you. They said superheroes aren't real, but I told them they are. They just look different." Keanu's heart swelled at the boy's words. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You're right. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes. And sometimes being kind is the most heroic thing we can do." The boy beamed, his confidence shining through. As he and his mother made their way toward the cafe, Keanu stood, his gaze following them with quiet appreciation. James, standing beside him, spoke softly. "You're not just changing lives, Keanu. You're inspiring them to be better." Keanu gave a small nod, his eyes reflecting both the weight of his past and the hope of the present. That's all any of us can do. Keep showing up. Keep choosing kindness. The morning continued to flow gently, each moment steeped in quiet reflection and renewed purpose. Amanda found herself paying closer attention to every interaction, each smile exchanged with guests feeling more authentic. As she stood at the front desk arranging papers, she noticed George, the maintenance worker, making his way across the lobby with a small toolbox in hand. His familiar presence brought a sense of comfort, his quiet demeanor always appreciated by those around him. "Good morning, George," Amanda greeted him with a genuine smile. George tipped his cap, his expression warm. "Good morning, Amanda. How's everything holding up today?" Amanda's smile widened. "Better, I think. We've had a good start." George nodded, pausing for a moment as if contemplating something. "You know, Amanda, it's not often you see a place change so quickly. It's like the air feels different, softer." Amanda tilted her head, curious. "You think so?" George chuckled softly. "I've been around long enough to notice when something shifts. People carry themselves differently when they feel seen. It makes all the difference." Amanda nodded slowly, reflecting on his words. Before she could respond, the sound of a familiar voice echoed through the lobby. "George!" Keanu approached, his stride relaxed but purposeful. His gaze held the same calm intensity that seemed to anchor every room he entered. George's face lit up as he saw Keanu, a broad smile breaking across his weathered features. "Mr. Reeves," George greeted warmly. "It's good to see you again." Keanu extended a hand, shaking George's firmly. "Good to see you too, George. How's the piano holding up?" George chuckled, his eyes twinkling with fondness. "Still sings like a dream. Thanks to you." Keanu's expression softened. It's not about the piano. It's about the stories it holds. Every note carries a memory. George's smile faltered slightly, a hint of emotion creeping into his voice. "You've got a way of seeing the things most people overlook. That's rare." Keanu shrugged lightly. "I've learned that it's the small moments that matter, the quiet gestures, the conversations no one else hears." Amanda listened to their exchange, her heart stirred by the sincerity in their words. It was these moments, unseen, uncelebrated, that left the deepest impact. As Keanu and George continued talking, a young woman entered the lobby, carrying a violin case. She glanced around, appearing slightly nervous before making her way to the front desk. "Hi," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was told I could play here, by the piano?" Amanda smiled reassuringly. "Of course. Please, make yourself comfortable." The woman nodded, her nervousness easing. She made her way to the piano, carefully setting her violin case down before taking out the instrument. As she began to play, the lobby filled with a hauntingly beautiful melody that seemed to weave its way through every corner of the room. Keanu paused, listening intently, his expression thoughtful. George stood beside him, both men silently absorbing the music. It was a simple, unplanned performance, yet it carried an emotional weight that touched everyone present. As the final note faded, Keanu approached the young woman. "That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us." The woman blushed, her shyness returning. "Thank you. I just wanted to bring a little music to the day." Keanu's smile was gentle. Music has a way of speaking when words fall short. You've given us all a gift today. As the woman packed up her violin, Amanda watched her with admiration. She realized that moments like these, unexpected, heartfelt, were what truly defined the hotel's spirit. George leaned closer to Amanda, his voice low. "You see? It's the little things that change everything." Amanda nodded, her gaze lingering on Keanu as he stood quietly by the piano, lost in thought. "Yes, George, I'm starting to see it too." As the afternoon sun poured through the large windows, casting golden hues across the lobby, Amanda found herself reflecting on how much had changed in such a short time. The weight she had carried, of expectations, judgment, and pride, felt lighter. Each interaction seemed more meaningful now, and she realized how much a simple shift in perspective could transform her world. Keanu lingered near the piano, his gaze distant yet peaceful. George had quietly returned to his duties, humming a soft tune as he worked. Amanda glanced toward Keanu, noticing the calm aura that seemed to follow him everywhere. She hesitated for a moment before walking over to join him. "Mr. Reeves," she began softly, her voice carrying both respect and curiosity. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said yesterday, about kindness and the small moments that matter. It's made me realize how easy it is to overlook those moments." Keanu turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "It's easy to get caught up in the rush of life. We're often too busy chasing something bigger to notice the little things right in front of us. But those little moments, they're the ones that stick with you. They're what people remember." Amanda nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. "I used to think success was about status, appearances, and recognition. But now, I'm starting to see that it's about connection. It's about how we make people feel." Keanu offered a gentle smile. "Exactly. People may forget your name or your title, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." His words hung in the air, resonating deeply. Before Amanda could respond, the doors to the hotel swung open, and a man in his mid-40s entered, his face lined with fatigue and worry. He wore a wrinkled suit, and his tie hung loosely around his neck. His eyes darted around the lobby, searching for someone. Amanda stepped forward. "Welcome. How can we assist you today?" The man offered a tired smile. "I'm here to meet my daughter. She said she'd be playing her violin here today." Amanda's face lit up with recognition. "Ah, yes. She was here earlier. She played beautifully." Relief washed over the man's face. "Thank you. It's been a tough few months for us. Music has been her escape. And I wasn't sure if she'd have the courage to play in public again." Keanu, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "Your daughter has a gift. She brought something special to everyone here today." The man's eyes widened as he recognized Keanu. "Mr. Reeves, I didn't realize—" He trailed off, visibly moved. "Thank you for your kindness. It means more than you know." Keanu shook his head gently. "It's your daughter who deserves the thanks. She reminded us all of the power of music and courage." The man's voice trembled. "She lost her mother recently. It's been hard for her. But music, it's the one thing that keeps her going." Amanda felt a lump rise in her throat. She glanced at Keanu, who met her gaze with a knowing look. It was another reminder of the unseen struggles people carry, and how even the smallest acts of kindness can make a world of difference. "Tell her to keep playing," Keanu said softly. "The world needs more of her music." The man nodded, his eyes glistening with tears. "I will. Thank you." As the man left to find his daughter, Amanda stood silently beside Keanu, her heart full. "You're right," she said quietly. "It really is the little moments that matter most." Keanu glanced at her, his expression gentle but firm. "And it's up to us to create those moments, every day." The hotel lobby settled into a gentle hum as the afternoon progressed, but Amanda's thoughts remained restless. Each conversation, each moment of connection she had witnessed today felt like a thread weaving a tapestry of something greater, something profoundly human. She glanced toward the piano where Keanu now stood quietly, lost in thought. His presence radiated a kind of calmness that put people at ease. But Amanda sensed there was a weight he carried, a depth shaped by personal loss and resilience. Keanu's gaze shifted toward the entrance as the same young violinist returned, her father walking beside her. The girl clutched her violin case tightly, her steps tentative but determined. Amanda watched them approach with a quiet smile. "I wanted to thank you," the father said, his voice steady but emotional, "for giving my daughter a place to find her courage again." Keanu nodded, his expression warm but thoughtful. "She brought her own courage. We were just lucky enough to witness it." He turned to the girl, crouching slightly to meet her gaze. "And how are you feeling today?" The girl's eyes sparkled with both shyness and pride. "I'm a little nervous," she admitted, "but I want to keep playing." Keanu smiled softly. "That's the secret. Keep playing, even when you're nervous, especially when you're nervous. That's when the music means the most." Her father placed a hand on her shoulder, squeezing gently. "She hasn't played like this since, well, it's been a while." His voice faltered, and Amanda sensed the weight of the unspoken words, the grief they both carried. "Music helps us heal," Keanu said softly, his tone steady and reassuring. "And sometimes it's how we remember those we've lost." The girl nodded slowly, her expression growing more resolute. "I'll keep playing," she promised. "For my mom." Keanu's eyes softened further. She'd be proud. As the father and daughter walked toward the piano, Amanda stood silently beside Keanu, her heart full of unspoken emotion. The air felt charged with something intangible yet deeply moving, a reminder that even in loss there is beauty to be found. As the day drew to a close, the golden hues of sunset filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow across the lobby. Guests moved quietly through the space, their voices hushed as if they, too, felt the lingering magic of the day's moments. Amanda remained at the front desk, her mind swirling with thoughts of everything she had witnessed. It felt as though the hotel had become more than just a place to stay. It had transformed into a sanctuary for human connection. Keanu stood near the window, watching the city lights begin to flicker to life. His gaze was steady, but Amanda could sense the quiet contemplation behind his calm exterior. She approached him with gentle steps, her voice soft but sincere. "I don't think I've ever truly understood kindness before this," she began. "It's not just about grand gestures or being polite. It's about seeing people, really seeing them." Keanu turned to face her, a faint smile playing at his lips. "Kindness is often quiet," he said. "It's in the moments that no one notices. But those moments have a way of staying with people, shaping how they see the world and themselves." Amanda nodded, her heart full. "I think I understand that now, and I want to be part of creating those moments." Keanu's expression softened further. "You already are." His words carried a quiet reassurance that settled deep within Amanda's soul. Across the room, the young violinist began to play once more, her notes filling the space with a hauntingly beautiful melody. Her father stood nearby, his gaze filled with pride and emotion. The music wove its way through the room, touching each person who heard it. As the final note lingered in the air, Keanu glanced around the lobby, taking in the quiet transformation that had taken place. He met Amanda's gaze one last time. "It doesn't take much to change the world," he said softly. "Just one act of kindness at a time." Amanda smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Thank you. For everything." Keanu nodded, his eyes reflecting both the weight of his own journey and the hope he carried for others. As he walked toward the doors, the lobby felt lighter, as though it, too, had been forever changed. Before he stepped outside, Keanu paused at the entrance. Turning back one last time, he spoke with a quiet intensity that resonated through the room. "Remember, kindness is contagious. It starts small, but it spreads farther than you can imagine." The guests and staff stood in reflective silence as the doors closed behind him. Amanda remained rooted in place, her heart brimming with resolve. She glanced around the lobby, The faces, the stories, the connections that had unfolded within these walls, and felt an undeniable truth settle in her chest. This wasn't just a lesson, it was a mission. Later that evening, as she prepared to close the front desk, Amanda pulled out a notepad and wrote 3 simple words. Kindness starts here. She placed it where everyone could see it the next morning, a quiet promise to herself and to those around her. The hotel may have been a place of luxury, but what truly set it apart now was the atmosphere of compassion that lingered long after the guests departed. And as the city lights shimmered outside, it was clear that the ripple of kindness would continue to grow, one moment, one person, one story at a time.